Capital Views is sponsored by North Rim Bank, Alaska Oil and Gas Association, ConocoPhillips, and Linden.
Hi, I'm Tim Bradner with Alaska Legislative Digest, and welcome to Capitol Views. And welcome today to Mayor Peter Micciche of the Kenai Peninsula Borough, former state senator, well known in the Capitol to legislators, been around for a few years, former Senate president. So thanks for joining us, Mayor Micciche.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Tim. It's been a little while. I've
Yeah.
been home for 3 years now, so it's you haven't called, but to be there to share some news from back home here.
Well, basically, I was going to ask you just sort of how things are in Kenai. I mean, you're when you were Senate president, you had the whole state that you were partly responsible for, and now it's just the Kenai Peninsula, which is home for you. But how are things going?
Yeah, it's probably, I think anything we talk about today is going to be sort of a microcosm of what every muni is facing in the state of Alaska right now. Some things will be somewhat favorable. We're one of two growing communities in the state, the Kenai Peninsula Borough and the Mat-Su. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with other issues, and I'm looking forward to talking about that. But, Senate President, felt like my girls were growing up without me, and I really enjoyed my time there. But this is a really fun, productive challenge. No one thinks they're going to be the next president of the United States. They're not as fearful of their constituents on making tough decisions. And there's not a DNR problem, if you know what I mean. It's community people working together and getting things done. And it's been rewarding. It's a little bit more like my corporate job before on the daily demands of running a $200 million organization like the Kenai Peninsula Borough. But it's much easier to bring people together to consensus and productivity.
Well, local government is where the rubber really meets the road in terms of services and things people that affect people every day. Are there any kind of near-term or challenges you're looking at right away, or you can? That I know that every local government has them.
Yeah, of course we do. We are looking at the effects from the state, and I've got a bill that's running right now on our ability under Title 29 to tax the annual increase or to cap the annual increases of assessments, not just the mill rate piece. We have two levers, but the escalation has been problematic. And along with the other shifts from state government to local government, we're kind of working against ourselves. A lot is based on the assessment, the full and true value issue that happens in Alaska. And I can give you some examples, but the Kenai Peninsula Borough was encouraged to build 44 schools. Came with school bond debt reimbursement. It came with capital dollars to maintain those schools. It came with a rising BSA, and all of those things have gone away. Also, from far away, when exemptions required, mandatory exemptions sound like a good idea in Juneau. They don't know how it hits us back at home. So we're looking at those shifted costs. We're doing fine on our own. In fact, I inherited a rapidly escalating budget, 16% in the last 2 years of the last mayor, and we're on a 2.5% or under CPI-based budget philosophy, and we've been maintaining that for 3 years with unanimous budget votes from a split assembly. We're holding our own, but I am closely keeping an eye on those shifting costs from the state to the local munis. You will get to a breaking point, and many municipalities are already there. So by working together with current legislators and the governor, I think we can keep the balance as designed since statehood on sort of what's in our category of spend and what's in the state's category of spend. And there's been a lot of leakage in the last several years.
Can you speak to the assessment problem of true value just very briefly?
Yes.
Um,
So
what that's about?
the number one thing that I hear the most complaints about is rapidly increasing assessments, which is a problem all over Alaska, right? So you've got blue collar, hardworking family, and their assessment escalates rapidly. So there's the impact when they open that bill. They don't look at the mill rate because we cut the mill rate dramatically last year. People in the Kenai Peninsula Borough, more than 50% of them paid less last year than the year before. So we're responding to the rapid escalation. But it impacts us in so many other ways. Like the way the BSA works, the funding formula, that 34% increase in assessments over 3 years resulted in less school funding from the state. So even though you have the vast majority of the geographic area of Alaska paying nothing for local education, the REAA areas, those of us with a tax base are getting hit harder and harder for the same dollar for education every year. So it's difficult. Many states, so this started with DeSantis in Florida on this pushback against property taxes. President Trump talks about it every day as though it's a sort of unconstitutional approach and essentially has people renting their homes instead of paying for services. And we're trying to prove that we're fighting for those taxpayers. We want them to stay. The number one impact on education funding in Alaska right now is a decrease in the student population. So although the population of the Kenai Peninsula Borough is increasing about 650 people a year, almost all of those are seniors. We're losing 2 to 17-year-olds and their parents because we no longer have a premium to wages. The cost of living here is expensive. We're trying to counter some of that by keeping property taxes relatively flat. Title 29 does not give us any flexibility on the full and true, and it's an inexact science. And we would like the ability, so my government is limited by 2.5% a year of increases. Some years are a little higher. We can borrow from another year, right? I mean, depending on how we can manage our costs over time. We want to know what this government's going to cost 20 years from now, as opposed to having a very jagged government that has us shifting mill rates up and down, depending on the responses of the assembly and the mayor. We want to put in place a system where people in the Kenai Peninsula Borough know what that'll look like 20 years from now. That's very difficult when you can't control your escalation of assessment. So one of the solutions that several states have done is limiting the increase on an annual basis. And by limiting the assessments, we could keep a relatively stable mill rate, and the value of real estate goes up and down, but at least should stay smoother so that the management of our borough can match that smoothness and people know what those costs are going to look like. Before I got here, when the rapid escalation began, the previous administration was very low in reacting by lowering mill rates, and ended up banking about $40 million more than what was required to run this government. So our mantra here, our mission statement, is the best quality services at the lowest cost possible to you. And that wasn't the model of previous administrations. We want people to know that this government is creating as little burden on them as possible because we want them to stay. We want their kids to come back. We want them to help grow our community with a balanced community that fills the jobs in our workforces, that keeps our schools adequately filled with students, and has a good balance between seniors that we want to stay, but we want that balance to be maintained. And that's difficult when you're rapidly increasing costs to those families.
Yeah. Well, many challenges, and you certainly got your hands full. Uh, Mayor Micciche, thanks for joining us, and we'll look forward to talking more about these issues. Thank you.
Anytime. It's great to see you, Tim. Thanks.